need to make sure, we're gonna video, the support group meeting. You know, Facebook Live didn't work out very well. As, now I got a wireless mic, but we hadn't got that figured out yet either. This one belongs to Bartlett Banquet Hall. So anyway, I'll get situated someday. Is the video okay, videoing the meeting okay with everybody? Okay?
Yes.
Okay. When we pass around the sign-in sheets, if you would mark the part that says it's okay to video, just put a Y for yes or whatever. PHA makes me stay like that. They say I have to be organized, I have to be legal. So that's part of it. Anyway.
They don't talk to me.
They don't talk to Chuck. There again, I want to welcome you. If the video works out, like I'm hoping it does, I'll put it on YouTube and I'll give everybody the link. I'll email the link to you. If you take any pictures tonight, if you will forward them to me, barbara@memphis@gmail.com, I'd appreciate it. If you don't take any pictures, that's okay, because I think Chuck and I and Angel have taken enough pictures to make a video. This is the confidentiality statement that I always have to read. It's any information or advice given to members by members or supporters is only the opinion of the individual, and neither PHA nor the support group leader will be held responsible for any individual's opinion. All members are encouraged to seek professional medical advice when they have a question concerning their own health care. Because support group members share personal feelings and information in these group meetings, each support group member understands and agrees that no personal information will be shared outside the group. Does everyone agree to this?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Chuck already did the prayer for us. We appreciate that. Has everybody had their flu shots? If you hadn't, please get them. They do not cause the flu, but there is a stronger flu shot. They're calling it a senior flu shot. And since my doctor's office had not gotten it in yet, I had 2 flu shots about 2 weeks apart from each other. So that's something that you might want to think about too. We have always worried and not had a source for pulmonary rehab in the area. There are now 3 centers that offer pulmonary rehab. That is excellent, something for you to be taking. They have somebody there that will monitor your heart rate, your oxygen stats, so that you don't get into trouble. They'll teach you how to exercise safely with pH. They will also teach you how to breathe more efficiently. So ask your doctors for pulmonary rehab, because they'll sign for it, or they'll request it, and your insurance company will pay for it. So you just have to supply your own way of getting there and getting home. But if anybody's interested, there's Memphis Spine and Rehab on Wolf River Cove in Germantown. Baptist DeSoto Hospital has it. They're in South Haven. And Methodist South has it. They're down on Wesley Drive. Our medications, as everybody knows, are very expensive. There are organizations that will help or that will pay for your copay, and some of them will take care of your insurance premium. There's only one group that's open right now, and you have to go to Fund Finder, and I have that address. If anybody needs it, just give me a holler, and I'll give you their website address. It's PAN Foundation. That stands for Patients Assistance Network. The only one that's open right now is the Assistance Fund. And this is not just for pulmonary hypertension. It can be for other diseases. So if you've got something else besides PH and you need more of a grant, go ahead and apply for it. I had 3 grants last year. Since our medications are so expensive and we don't know from month to month whether these organizations are going to receive the money or not, I always have a backup plan. The assistance fund does not have a cap, so that's a real good plus point there. They're in the enrollment cycle right now, and it's open, but it's only good until November the 22nd. So if you don't apply by then, you're gonna miss it. So please don't. They're an excellent group. Our speaker is not, one of our speakers is not here yet. I was gonna thank him, but but anyway, I'm sure Kelly will be here shortly. United Therapeutics has, oh, yay, hi United Therapeutics. Are you Kelly? Okay. Is our speaker here?
Dr. Waqas will be here close to 7.
Okay, what's his name?
Dr. Waqas.
I wasn't sure how to pronounce it.
He'll be here
Waqas.
soon.
Dr. Waqas. Okay, everybody help me remember that. Dr. Waqas. He's from Little Rock. Okay. But I want to thank Kelly, Taylor, and United Therapeutics for sponsoring our meeting. They are the makers of Remodulin and Tyvaso that are specifically for pulmonary hypertension. One is infused, Tyvaso is inhaled, isn't it, Kelly?
That is correct.
Okay,
Yes.
okay. We appreciate them for bringing the doctor as soon as he gets here, and he is a cardiologist at St Vincent Heart in Little Rock, Arkansas, of course. He has a lot of experience using all the treatments, including pumps. I think I said plumps. Anyway, I got a new parcel, and I'm not used to it yet, so I'm getting there. They are at his hospital. They are applying for a regional center of excellence in PAH to talk to us, and he's going to talk to us about your role in PAH. Then we'll hear from Russell Smith. He's my insurance agent, and he is my advisor. He has always helped me, his wife first, and then Russell when I was on Medicaid, or Medicare, to help me decide which plan would do the best for me in my circumstances. And I'm sure that I'm no different than a lot of people in here that have a long list of medications. Russell came over to the house, he took my list home, he went through everything, and he made sure of what company would take care of what. And one thing that Chuck and I did not know is that you can have 2 different insurance companies. One of them will take care of A and B, is that right? And then the other one will take care of the drugs. Last year I used Humana and Aetna, and Aetna has been bought out by WellCare.
That's correct.
So now this year I'm using Humana, and then I'm using WellCare. Also, we signed up for Plan G, which is Medigap. Y'all know I was in the hospital back in August, double pneumonia, sepsis, list of other things. But anyway, I got Medigap will take care of the part that Medicare does not. My hospital bill so far is at $72,000. With the Medigap, I'm paying $2.13. I can do that. Now the Medigap runs about, it's a little over $100 a month, but you know, as a lot of us get put in the hospital. So that's going to take care of it. And he's not here to sell us anything, by the way. He's just to inform and advise. And if you have any questions, please feel free to ask them. Kelly, what do you think? Should we go ahead and have Russell go ahead and talk?
Absolutely, yeah, that's a great idea.
Okay, all right, let's do that. Is that okay with you, Russell?
Yes.
All right. Oh, wait a minute. One more thing. Sit down, Russell.
Okay. You know, this happens all the time.
Yeah. Okay,
Oh,
back on that back table. Oh, what, Diane?
I'm sorry,
That's all right.
but it sounded like you were finishing your things. When is the next, or where's the next, I haven't gone online. Where's the next convention, or,
PHA conference. It's in Anaheim, California.
oh, it's in California?
Yeah. Florida was really, really tough on me and Chuck.
We're not gonna go.
And we're not, there's no way that we can go. But anyway, I have talked to one of our reps over there from Credo about, do y'all remember this smaller brochure that PHA put out for years? Probably not. Of course, with me being almost 17 years into this battle with pulmonary hypertension, I have some of the old stuff. And I've really hung on to these because the real estate in a doctor's office is very crowded. I was trying to buy, the hard plastic thing to put these in, and sometimes a drug rep or other people thought that they needed it more than I did, so it would disappear. So I'm asking the drug companies if they will make a small brochure like this that doesn't take up much room. The other brochures are this big. These take up a lot of room, and I've never seen a disposable or a cardboard holder for this size. I have seen, however, cardboard for this size, and it will fit anywhere in a doctor's office. You see all that stuff sitting around all the time in doctor's offices. So if we can get some of the drug companies to jump on here and put their booklets in this size, it'd be great. I also got several new pamphlets that PHA put out. I'm not used to a microphone. They have the Faces of Hope, which if you go onto Facebook, PHA has me as a face of hope. Anyway, one of the sheets is also tells about what is pulmonary hypertension. This one is Faces of Hope, and then there's another one that's a patient story. And PHA would like for you to submit your stories to them. And just go to phassociation.org. Super good. Of course, this is Pulmonary Hypertension Awareness Month. And, I'm going to make a mess up here, but that's okay. Anyway, Mayor Lee Harris, the Shelby County Mayor, has declared that in Shelby County, Tennessee, November is Pulmonary Hypertension Awareness Month. Since we're in Bartlett, and they do it anyway, we have one from Bartlett, we have one from Germantown, Tennessee, we have the state of Tennessee, Governor Lee, Jim Strickland, the mayor of the city of Memphis, and here's Bartlett. So I appreciate all of these officials that will do that. Still working on the White House, but you know how that is. And Teresa, if you would like to come up here and join me for just a moment, please. And she has gotten a proclamation. And it's all of the proclamations say the same thing every year. So if you want to read the whole thing, you're welcome to come up here and look at it. But anyway, here's Teresa.
Hi, everybody.
forgetting my leash is not quite as long as it is at home. Okay, Teresa, all yours.
My first proclamation is from Mississippi. The governor of Mississippi had declared a proclamation, the Hypertension Month of November for the state of Mississippi. And that's, Phil Bright is the governor of Mississippi.
Let me tell you something, she worked hard because Mississippi is not cooperative in doing these proclamations. Anyway,
Oxford, Mississippi also, wears Hypertension Month of the month of November for Mayor Robin Tillenhead, Oxford, Mississippi. And also we have Tupelo, Mississippi for Mayor Jim Shelton. And they also declare the month of hypertension.
all right.
In November. So I'm really happy. Hopefully we'll have more next year.
Yeah, really. Thank you. Okay, Mr. Smith, all yours. Also, if y'all have questions, if you got something to write on, write them down.
Hello, everybody. My name is Russell Smith. I'm an independent insurance agent here in Memphis, and
Volume, please.
well, oh yes,
Over there.
where's the microphone?
No,
Oh, here
volume.
it is. There it is.
Oh.
My name is Russell Smith, and I'm an independent insurance agent here in the Memphis area. And I started in insurance doing annuities, so my goal is to save people money in retirement. And one of the ways I found out in about 2005, Medicare came out with the prescription drug program. Before that, Medicare did not have a prescription help for people on Medicare. So many of my clients needed that help, and if people have pulmonary hypertension, I don't know if you all take a lot of medicine, but it can be very expensive, the medicine, for people. And so Medicare is a plan that helps a lot of people. Some of you may not be on Medicare. Medicare is a plan for people who are 65 or older, or for people under 65 if they have a disability. Typically, if they're on Social Security disability for 2 years, then they can get Medicare. And Medicare is a great program. This picture is the Medicare and You handbook. In this, I know that's kind of hard to see, but Medicare has parts A, B, C, and D. Part A of Medicare is hospital insurance. It helps pay at the hospitals, skilled nursing facilities, hospice, many other things. Part B of Medicare is medical services. So that would be doctors, surgeons, nurses, even things like durable medical equipment, or medicines that are injected into you, like chemotherapy or steroid shots, or a lot of other things. That falls under Part B of Medicare. Now, Medicare A and Medicare B don't pay everything. If it did, then you'd be in great shape, but it doesn't. It leaves a lot unpaid. And so you need protection for what Medicare doesn't pay. For example, Part A of Medicare, the hospital, has a $1,360 deductible when you enter the hospital. Part B it's a small deductible, $185 this year, but it only pays 80%, and that means the beneficiary, that means you, if you're on Medicare, has to pay the other 20%, and there's no limit to it. So unlike most insurance, there's no limit. The other thing that Medicare doesn't cover is prescription drugs. They have plans available for everybody on Medicare, and that's the Part D program of Medicare. And so if you're on Medicare, you can enroll in a Part D plan. And again, those are handled by private insurance companies. So it's important, and Barbara alluded to this, to really look at your medicines and really look at the plans that you're enrolling in, and make sure that the plan covers the medicines you're taking, and that it's for you, where you buy your medicines and the medicines you're taking, make sure it's the proper plan. Medicare also has something, and I know that's kind of hard. It's called Medicare Advantage. Medicare Advantage, well, let me do the first column. On page 5 of the Medicare New Handbook, there's 2 columns, and it says there are 2 main ways to get Medicare. And the first column is on the left. You can have original Medicare, that's A and B. You can also add a prescription drug plan, and you can add supplemental coverage. That's called a Medigap plan, or a Medicare supplement plan. The good thing about the left column here is that you can go to any doctor or provider that accepts Medicare. There's no networks. So that's very useful for a lot of people. The downside is that the Part D plans can be expensive. They can range in price from a low of $15 or so to a high of $120 or $130. So that's expensive, and the supplement itself can range in price from, $70 or $80 a month to over $150, and they go up as people get older. So the coverage is really good, but the premiums are pretty high. Medicare Advantage, on the other hand, it's known as Part C of Medicare. Some of those plans don't have a premium. You don't have to pay anything. With these plans, Medicare takes the money that they've collected over here and they send it to the Advantage company. And so many times there's low or even no premium. And the downside of this side is that you have to pay co-payments when you go to see doctors or are in the hospital. And also you typically have a network of doctors. So if your doctors are in the network, that plan might be very good for you. You might save a lot of money being on Medicare Advantage. Another thing about the left column here with the Medicare supplement, if a person is under 65 and on Medicare, that means they have a Medicare disability, a Social Security disability. Well, the supplements are going to be very high for those people. In fact, they might range from $300 to $600 a month just for the supplement. Okay. I've got some. Y'all have any questions so far? Yes, ma'am.
If they got to pay all their money, they might as well, to me, not be on it. Cause you got to pay all them other $300-something.
Right, for the insurance?
You know, the part you were saying, for the 300s.
For people
the
under
supplement.
65?
The supplement part. Why is it so high?
It's high because the insurance company knows that they're gonna have to pay out a lot of money for those people. If they're on Medicare disability, if they're on Social Security disability, the only way to get that is if they have health problems enough to get on disability, so they charge more for the Medicare supplement plans. Now, when people turn 65, the price goes down. Yes, ma'am. Yes.
But the Advantage plans, even if they're under 65, are very affordable.
That's a good point. A Medicare Advantage plan is the same price whether a person's under 65 or over 65. Or it doesn't matter what the age is. But the Medicare supplements are typically more for people under 65. Yes, ma'am.
So the Medicare Advantage plan is what we might call a supplemental plan that you might get through your workplace when you retire.
Well, now some,
Cause I bought a supplemental plan
Mhm.
when I retired.
yeah,
And that's, you know, literally that took everything that Medicare, I just got out of the hospital.
mhm.
I haven't even received a bill.
Yeah, that's probably, you're probably on the left-hand column, that's probably a true Medicare supplement.
Yes, it's considered so it's my supplemental plan.
Right.
But do those tend to be more expensive than the Medicare Advantage plans?
That's right. The Medicare supplement
They
would be,
they cover everything.
well, that's why the premium is more.
And my hospital bill was $150,000
Right.
for 5 days.
Wow. So you had great coverage then.
Yeah, I think so.
Yes, you did.
Well, I haven't gotten a bill yet, so
Yes,
I'm
ma'am.
thinking that I went to Mayo Clinic. And they're right on time with bills otherwise when I went before.
Mhm.
But this time, when I went, I've not even received a bill. And I
Okay.
had a July 31st surgery time. So I'm thinking it's a
Right.
done deal. But I'm hearing you say that Medicare Advantage plan,
Mhm.
like I could choose that instead of the supplemental that I purchased
You could.
as an option.
It's an
If you
option.
studied it and figured out dollar-wise
Uh,
whether,
You really need to look at your medicines, your
Yeah.
doctors, how much medical care you use.
Okay.
I use this example. I had two aunts over in Arkansas, and I advised one to go with the supplement because she used a lot of health care, and I advised the other to go with the Advantage because she didn't use any health care hardly. She did her one checkup a year. Yes, ma'am.
I made an error. That was my hospitalization bill in 2016, 150,000. This time, it was like 70,000 for 5 days.
Still, that's a lot of money, and you don't want to have to pay that, do you?
Well,
You
we would have
don't
had
even-
to declare bankruptcy,
You don't even wanna have to pay
to be
20%
quite
of it.
honest.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's 20%,
So-
that's a lot.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about Medicare. If Medicare is a program many people don't understand, because even though you have health insurance before you turn 65 or get on Medicare, get on disability, health insurance that you get through work or on an individual basis is, somewhat different than Medicare. Medicare, we're gonna talk about the eligibility for it. I don't know how long you want me to talk. Yes,
You're good.
okay. What Medicare is, your options, costs, and important dates. Medicare is a program of the federal government, and it has more than 59 million people that are on the Medicare program. Part A and B, A is hospital, B is medical services, that's considered original Medicare. Part C is the Medicare Advantage program. With that program, Medicare outsources its responsibility to private insurance companies. And then D is the latest part of Medicare, it's the prescription drug program. You're eligible if you're 65 and you have enough work history, enough quarters of work. And you may also be eligible for Medicare if you're under 65, but have a disability or end-stage renal disease, that's kidney failure where you have to have dialysis. Original Medicare Part A, we've already talked about that, covers hospitalization, skilled nursing, hospice, home health care. Part B is doctor appointments, outpatient, durable medical equipment, things like that. And so Medicare Advantage is Part C. That's where Medicare pays a private company to provide your Medicare for you. And Barbara, our speaker is here, so.
Barbara, this is Dr. Waqas.
Hi, how are you? Thank you for coming.
So you have options. So in thinking about your coverage, you have options. The Medicare and You handbook that I showed you just a minute ago, if you're on Medicare, they should send that to you every year. And you may have it at home, and most people don't ever read it. But I say if you can't sleep at night, start reading this book. You'll go right to sleep. You won't- But But anyway, there's a lot of good information in there. If you have questions, the answers are probably in there about Medicare. Enrolling in Medicare, if you're turning 65 and you're drawing Social Security already, typically they will send you your Medicare card 2 or 3 months before you turn 65. If you're not drawing Social Security yet, then they won't automatically enroll you in Medicare and send you your card. So you need to, about 2 or 3 months before you turn 65, enroll, go online, or go online to socialsecurity.gov, or go to the Social Security office and enroll in Medicare. Important dates every year, from October the 15th through December the 7th is the annual election period. People on Medicare can change their Medicare Advantage plan or their prescription drug plan. So if you're on Medicare, now's a good time to look at your medicine costs, look at the pharmacies you like to use, look at your doctor choices and see if there's a change that you want to make. Some people have a special election period. For example, if a person moves out of their service area, they can change plans. Some people get extra help with their prescription drugs, and they can change plans several times during the year also. So there's a lot of things to think about. The medicines you're using, your health history, the coverage that you need, the doctors you use. So if you have any other questions, feel free to ask me. I've left my business cards on the back, and I also have, a lot of people qualify for 10 care, call that 10 care. If you qualify for that, and if you don't know, fill out the application and send it in. You can also apply online. You might also apply and are qualified for extra help with your prescription drug costs. Many people are and don't know it. You can call Social Security and say, hey, am I qualified for extra help paying for my prescription drugs? You also, in the state of Tennessee, we have a support. The state of Tennessee gives help with people making decisions about Medicare and other health coverage. That's called the SHIP, S-H-I-P program. I've got some information on the table back there about that program, so feel free to take any of that information. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me, and I'll help you with your particular situation. Thank you, Bob.
Thank you.
I want to tell y'all one more thing. When they talk about these prescriptions, you can tell him or some other agent, somebody, but Russell's the best one we've found. You tell him what prescriptions, and he puts it in a computer, and each company, it prints out how much it's going to cost for each prescription, and you can total it up, okay? So, I always thought you could buy insurance and then you got it. No, because next year, it might be totally different from one company to another. So you need to check this every year. But anyway, this is why you want to have somebody that you can talk to about
Yes.
this. Pardon me? He can do it. He does it. He does, I mean, better than anybody I've seen. And we appreciate you coming, Russell.
Dr. Waqas, we appreciate you coming. Just to let y'all know,
Shouldn't have turned it on.
got it?
It's gonna have to cool off, I think.
Dr. Waqas is a cardiologist at St Vincent Heart in Little Rock. He has a lot of experience using all treatments, including pumps. That's a big thing. That's a real big thing for people who are on Remodulin or Flolan or something like that. He has, they are applying, for a regional center of excellence in PAH, and he's going to talk to us about your role in PAH. Dr. Waqas.
Thank you so much.
All right. And there's plenty of food back there too.
I saw that.
It's not all the kind of healthy food that cardiologists say we should eat though. Not
But
all
it's
of it.
low salt. I specified low salt.
No, it's not. There's chicken.
And my lips is purple, is periwinkle lipstick. It's not, I'm not insufficient on oxygen tonight. I'm periwinkled.
Is it, can everyone see this well? Yes. All right. Well, thank you for having me. It's close to Thanksgiving, so I saw the collard greens and some gravy and biscuit. It looks beautiful. So it looks tasty. Yes.
Would you be willing to use the microphone?
Oh, there's microphone.
It's to your right.
Oh, there it is. All right. Well, thank you for having me here. Rainy night, but we had a luckily 2.5 hours and there was not a lot of traffic from Little Rock to Memphis. How the truck traffic went well. Anyways, thank you for having me here and letting me speak with you. Just what you mentioned, my background is I'm a cardiologist by background and came to Little Rock 3 years ago and started primarily a heart failure program, but then also PH has been my passion since I got training, and Arkansas and specifically Little Rock did not have any coverage for this very rare condition. So we started our program there two years ago, and now we have a large volume program for all patients in PH, all different types, all different treatments. And like you mentioned earlier, we are the only center in the state that offers all therapies, including IV, sub-Q, inhaled, all the pill forms they're out there. So lucky to have actually association with patients with PH, and we have, just like this support group, we have 2 very active support groups in Little Rock, and they have done phenomenal work. And so I was speaking to one of my patients today, and I was thanking our support group leader there for the same efforts that you guys have put into actually not only bringing awareness at a higher level, but also getting a lot of legislation done at a legislation level for these drugs. And next week we have a Medicaid conference in Little Rock, and I'll be speaking there for a lot of Medicaid coverage for some of these medications which are at this point in time are not covered for under Medicaid for advanced therapies. And that was also brought up by one of the support group leaders, and we made a little plan about how to bring up the attention of legislators to make it better. So thank you for all the work you guys do. And today, and of course we have this kind of talks before with our support groups as well, but today we'll just talk about how to live with PH. I'll try to make it more interactive, and I'd love to know how people have learned about the disease and how they have learned how to live with the disease. There are 2 stages of any disease condition, and when the diseases are more, they affect patients a lot more intense way, then living with the condition can be also very difficult. And PH, we all know, is one of those diseases. It's not only a hard diagnosis to have, but also a hard diagnosis to live with, because it takes a lot of effort, not only from the patient, but also from the family, caregivers, and people who are involved in patient's life. Of course, this presentation is sponsored by the United Therapeutics Corporation, and I'm compensated by UT for this program, and it's only for information purposes. And if you have any questions which are off label, please, we can talk after. But today we'll have three main topics to talk about, and one of them will be what is PH, and in specific what is pulmonary arterial hypertension, or PAH. What are the different causes? How does it present? And how does this very specific condition affect your heart and lungs? Second, how can this be diagnosed? And I'm sure all of you know how you were diagnosed with this condition, but it's also important how, once you're diagnosed with this, how can you raise awareness on not only within family, but also people that you know to make sure they are diagnosed on time. Third, the different areas of treatment which are out there for PH. How many of you, when you were diagnosed with PH or went after for an appointment, ask your physician, pulmonologist or cardiologist to explain to you what is PH? Raise of hands, maybe?
That we asked our doctor?
Yes.
Yes.
And
It wasn't really presented. I was diagnosed, but they didn't really talk about it with me. I learned more about it later.
it's exactly what happens, when you, and one of the reasons that happens because there's always a barrier between patient and physician, or patient and the caregiver to tell or come talk with the disease very openly. Even when you ask question to a cardiologist or a pulmonologist about this condition, most of the time, unfortunately, physicians are rushed for time, and it sometimes becomes hard to explain this condition in detail, which is not an excuse at all. I think as a patient, you have the right not only to ask about your diagnosis, but also explain in more detail what caused you to have PH. And that is one of the most important questions to ask, because once you know what is the cause of your PH, it is easier to understand the disease, and most importantly, it's easier to treat the disease. So, if you have not asked your provider as of now what is PH and how you were diagnosed with PH, please make sure with your next appointment you always ask. Now, in simple words, the word pulmonary means lungs, and hypertension means high blood pressure. So pulmonary hypertension in general is any condition that can raise blood pressure in lung circulation. And it could be from any part of your whole physiology in your body that can raise your lung pressure. It is not just one condition. That is why when you look at the number of conditions in any human body that can cause PH, there are about more than 75 conditions which can cause PH. Now, how do you get to the bottom of that very diagnosis, that which one is yours? So, I had a nurse practitioner student today, and we were doing heart cath in the cath lab today, and I was going step by step, and I didn't realize that today while I was explaining to her that it takes about 7 different steps from a physician side to come to that point where you can maybe come to a conclusion of what the condition is, what the diagnosis is. But for a patient to come to that simplicity of understanding, you have to know what is the general group or class that you fall in for your pulmonary hypertension. There are 2 sides of our circulation, right and left. Left side of your heart is the main pump that pumps blood to the whole body, delivers oxygen, and after the oxygen is delivered, it comes back to the right side. Right side pumps the less oxygen blood into lungs. Lungs put oxygen back in blood, and from there it goes back to the left side, and then it goes through the rest of the body. So from left to the body, back to the right side, into lungs, from lungs to the left. That is the loop of blood, or circuit of blood, goes from left to right through lungs. Now, anywhere in this loop of blood flow, if there's a problem, that can cause pulmonary hypertension. For example, something as simple as low blood count or anemia can cause pulmonary hypertension. Now, is that a specific disease? No. But anemia in itself of certain type can cause pulmonary hypertension. Some people in developing countries with larval infection can have pulmonary hypertension. So my point is that it is not just lung-specific conditions which can lead to pulmonary hypertension. That is why you have to ask this question to your physician, that what is the cause of your pulmonary hypertension? So, one, you know what caused it. Second, the severity of that disease will define how long will you live. If it is mild, moderate, or severe, that will lead to severe the disease is, more stress it will cause on the right side of your heart, which if untreated over time can fail. Whatever the reason is, whatever the cause is. And once you can understand the cause, treat it better, the stress on the right side of the heart will go down, and the chances of living longer or survival will go up. So it all starts from point number one of where the problem is, how you fix it. Eventually the goal is to decrease the strain on the right side of the heart so it can live longer. How does anyone know, from symptom onset, from the time someone has symptoms of shortness of breath, chest pain, any of these symptoms of pulmonary hypertension, how long does it take from symptom onset to diagnosis of PH? What is the average time that it takes for any PH patient from the time of symptom onset to the diagnosis? What is the average time?
7 to 10 years.
2.
Or 2 to 4.
Yeah, 2
It's
to 4.
about 2 to 4 years. That's exactly right. So average time is about 2.9 years to almost 3 years.
I was bedridden for almost 2.
Mine took much longer.
Yes. So in 1985, when the first NIH trial, National Institute of Health trial, went on for pulmonary hypertension, they had their registry and figured out that the average time it takes for any patient from the time patient is short of breath to the time a physician diagnosed the patient with PH is about 2.8 years. Guess what is that time today in 2019? Exactly the same. And why is it?
Lack of awareness.
Lack of awareness. With who?
Medical.
Medical field. That's exactly right. We take blame as medical field people that we have not raised awareness within ourselves to diagnose this condition early. And you know why that is? It is because we always thought it is a rare condition when it is not. It is not a rare condition. It is uncommon. It's not rare. And in older times, when I say older times, I'm talking about even like 2005 and before. It's not that old. In older times, we didn't have much to offer. So when patients had PH, there were a couple of medicines available, and that's it. Patients lived with it, died with it very quickly. So whenever a patient was labeled PH, it was death sentence. I still to date, when even younger patients come to my office and for the first appointment and they see me, they have Googled about pulmonary hypertension, and the first thing they ask me, it's so surreal when they ask me, Doc, how much I have to live? Because I Google it, it says that pulmonary hypertension people die very quick. That is true. If untreated, patients die within years, or even shorter, depending on how severe the disease is. So from symptom onset to presenting to a physician, it may take good 2.5, 3 years, but our job is to decrease the time frame as much as we can by raising awareness and making sure that all the medical people also are very well aware about this. And then once you have reached a physician's office, you diagnose with PH. After that, it is not one person's job. As you have seen, you have a PH specialist nurse, PH specialist pharmacist, PH specialist coordinators, PH specialist social workers. They all work together to make sure that you have your diagnosis right, medicines are approved, they're delivered, and they are from specialty pharmacy, they're coming in on the right time, and you're getting all the right doses. So it takes an army of people to take care of such an advanced and complicated disease. So in general, when you look at the spectrum of PH, what causes pulmonary hypertension, since 1973, when WHO symposium, first WHO symposium was held, we have about 6 different symposium now. The last one was in 2018. And there's a tremendous amount of work done since then. One thing we know that there are 5 distinct categories of pulmonary hypertension. Does anyone know what is the most common organ involved in pulmonary hypertension or which organ is the most common cause of pulmonary hypertension?
Is the liver?
Liver, maybe, it's probably second or third more common. Heart. Heart itself is the most common cause of pulmonary hypertension. 70% of the patients who have PH, it will be coming from left heart disease. Patients with stiff heart, weak heart, bad rhythm, bad valves. That is the most common cause of pulmonary hypertension. After that, lung disease, COPD, asthma, patients who have pulmonary fibrosis or lung fibrosis. That is sleep apnea. That is the second more common. Then you have patients who have chronic blood clots. That is another whole category. Patients with bad kidney, chronic kidney disease, dialysis patients, patients with leukemias, patients with sarcoid, there's another component. And then you go in the pulmonary arterial component, which is also known as group 1 category, WHO group 1 category of pulmonary hypertension. That is actually the lesser common. That is where all the treatments are offered, or most of them are offered. So those patients have multiple different reasons. For example, someone with bad rheumatoid arthritis can have pulmonary hypertension. Patients who have family history of PH, the siblings and the offsprings can have PH. Patients with history of hepatitis C, HIV, they can have pulmonary hypertension. Scleroderma, SLE, lupus, all that can lead to pulmonary hypertension. And then when you have done all of your work, and you still cannot find a cause of pulmonary arterial hypertension, then we call it unknown or idiopathic. And there's a big chunk of patients on treatment with different medications have idiopathic pulmonary hypertension. But now we have significant improvement in the diagnostic process by gene testing. A lot of our patients, especially in their 50s and 60s, or 30s, 40s, and 60s, when they come in for PH work and they are diagnosed with pulmonary arterial hypertension, we always do their genetic testing to make sure they do not carry a specific hereditary type of PH. So if it is positive, then we can test their siblings and their kids and their loved ones to make sure they do not have PH or they don't carry PH gene. So if you have idiopathic pulmonary hypertension, please make sure you speak with your physicians to discuss about if it is hereditary or not. Does your sibling or kids, do they need to be tested for that or not? Now, once you have pulmonary hypertension as a disease has set in, what does it affect? It affects two main organs, lungs and heart. But the one organ that gets affected the most is heart. And that is where most of the symptoms come from. As less and less blood is going through to lungs, the oxygen level keeps on dropping. That is what makes people short of breath. But what kills people is the dysfunction of the right side of your heart from high lung pressure. That is what kills people. For example, if patients with pulmonary hypertension, when they get up and walk and become dizzy or pass out, that is not because of lung as an organ. It is the dysfunction of the heart or inability of the heart to keep up with the lung pressure, and it does not provide enough output, and patients drop dead or they black out. So actually, at a certain point in time, patients who through big clots of pulmonary embolism, 50% of them actually die out of the hospital just because of the same reason. Because heart cannot pump through the blood clot, causing high pressure, and heart just stops. So symptoms of dizziness, lightheaded, passing out or blackout spells with pulmonary hypertension, that comes from the strain that is asserted on right heart from high lung pressure. That is why the bane of existence, the bane of our treatment in PH is to decrease lung pressure so we can decrease the risk of heart failing in long term. So all the symptoms of dizziness, shortness of breath, they are also mixed, but primarily your swollen legs, or if you have swelling in your legs and belly, all that is coming from heart failure or right heart under strain from pulmonary hypertension. Eventually, what we see in pulmonary hypertension is uh, the vessels which are inside the lung structure, they keep on becoming affected with time. We all, when we're born, we start with normal blood circulation, normal blood vessels.
I didn't know.
At some point in time, if patients acquire some condition, for example, lupus as a condition, let's take that as an example. Lupus eventually can affect circulation or blood vessels throughout the body, in liver, lungs, kidney, brain, heart itself, skin. All these organs are affected in lupus. Similarly, blood vessels inside lung circulation are also affected. And the effect is that those blood vessels become tight, thick, and they do not respond to the natural physiology of the body, and they do not open up and close as normal blood vessels. So they stay small, thick, and tight. That is a common end effect of all the conditions that lead to PH. Thick, tight, and vessels which do not open or respond to normal physiology of body to relax during the time of need. And all the medications we use, pill form, inhale or IV, they are meant to improve that modulation or the reactivity of those blood vessels, so they are not as tight, they're more open, so there's more blood can flow through them. Now these tight blood vessels over time can cause strain on the right side of the heart and can make it thicker, and then over time it becomes weak and dilate or open up and can have issues like rhythm issues and can eventually come to a standstill if it is uncontrolled. So I saw that actually it's a very nice analogy that the slide deck carried, that what happens when you carry a hose, and normal hose, water hose, when you open the faucet, the water will flow very nicely. But if you pinch the other side of the hose, what will happen? The pressure inside the hose will go up, and if you do not release that pressure, the hose will start leaking at the front end. Similarly, in pulmonary circulation, think about the faucet is your right heart, and the other end is lungs. At lungs level, if our blood vessels are pinched tight, the faucet or the heart will start getting affected. So our job, again, for treatment purposes, is to make sure that we relax those blood vessels to decrease this pressure so blood can flow more effectively and seamlessly. I'm sure every one of you who has a history of pulmonary hypertension has gone through this. When you first show up to any physician's office with diagnosis or symptom or shortness of breath, you will go through a battery of tests. And the most common test which is done in the beginning is chest x-ray and see if there's any problem with infection or some congestive heart failure is apparent on x-ray or not. And then lung function test is almost always in order depending on who you see first. If you are seeing a pulmonologist, they will probably go more with a pulmonary function test or PFT with chest x-ray. If you're seeing a cardiologist, more likely you will get an echocardiogram as your first test along with chest x-ray. But nonetheless, both of them are the right strategies. It's just a matter of who you see first. Lung function test will tell you what's wrong with your lungs overall and look at capacity and restriction of your lung function. And we'll go in more detail about this. So with each inhalation and exhalation of air, our lungs have certain capacity. And pulmonary function test checks that. What the lung capacity is, how much it can open and relax, and how much it can diffuse the inspired oxygen to the other side of blood, so it can be carried to the rest of the body. If it is high enough, then we know lungs are normal. Any abnormality in chest restriction or stiffness of the lung can be seen at PFT and can be worked on based on what the function is. For example, COPD and asthma can be diagnosed with pulmonary function test. If it is there, we know the diagnosis. If it's not, then some of you may have heard about this terminology, DLCO, which is the diffusion capacity of your lung, how much oxygen it is able to push through to the blood side to make it work. And in almost every single patient with PH, that DLCO number is almost always low. Lower it is, worse the lung capacity to diffuse oxygen is. So those are a few things I will look with pulmonary function test. Echocardiogram, I think this is one of the most important tests that will lead towards the diagnosis of PH. And that is because echocardiogram or ultrasound of the heart can look at heart function, how big the chambers are, and can estimate pressure from just an ultrasound probe. And this is the most common and most effective screening test that leads to diagnosis of pulmonary hypertension. Almost all of the consults or referrals I get in my office are almost 90% of them are initiated by an abnormal echocardiogram. In patients who have a weak heart or stiff heart, or patients who have a valve leak or bad rhythm issues, or in the absence of all of the above, if patient has just isolated elevated right-sided pressure, that leads to the next step to diagnose pulmonary hypertension. But echocardiogram is the most sensitive, the most common test to at least start screening for PH. So another learning point with echocardiogram is that echocardiogram must never be used as a diagnostic test for pulmonary hypertension. It is purely, and I repeat, it's purely a screening test. It must be confirmed with a right heart cath and some other testing to make sure this is truly pulmonary arterial hypertension or not. You cannot just do an echocardiogram, see high numbers, and start treatment. That does not work. That is not the right way of starting treatment. BNP is a peptide. Basically, it's not a hormone. It is a substance which is secreted by by the heart chambers. It is a stress marker. In a simple way, more stretched your heart is, more BNP will be secreted. So higher the BNP level is, we think higher the stretch is. And conversely, if we de-stretch or unstretch the heart, decrease the pressure, BNP should come down. So we use BNP as a marker of disease or condition, either worsening or improving. That is why in our registries, where we assess risk score for all different type of patients, we use BNP as a risk marker. If it is persistently increasing, patient's risk of disease is getting higher. If it is coming down, the risk is coming down. So BNP, when you have your 3 months or 6 months labs done with your doctor, usually all of them check BNP as a marker of your disease progression, along with some other blood testing, but BNP is one of them. A 6-minute walk test, all of you had it when you put a walk between cones or between certain set of endpoints. You are asked to walk for 6 minutes without stop, without break. You're going to stop, but basically when you start walking, the timer goes on. You may do 1 lap, you may do 20 laps, but the timer will go on and stop at 6 minutes, and it could be 100 feet, it could be 1,000 feet, or it could be 2,000 feet. The purpose of the test is to see, one, before you start treatment, what is your capacity to walk, how much you can do, and second, if we start treatment, are we improving the distance to walk or not? So 6-minute walk distance has been the conventional test used in all the trials to see the improvement in patient's condition with treatment. If we are making improvement in 6-minute walk distance, it means we are making improvement in disease. That is a surrogate for improving functional capacity in patients with pulmonary hypertension. Let's see if we put you on a treatment strategy, and 6-minute walk distance in the beginning was 300 meters, and after starting the treatment, it is 500 meters, we know that patient is doing better with treatment. If it got worse, or if it is not improving, then there are two meanings. Either we need to escalate therapy or strategies to make it even better, or the treatment is not right. So 6-minute walk distance is a simple test. It gives us a lot of information as to how much you can walk, what your strength is, what is your oxygen level, what is your blood pressure with exercise. All these things are important for us to know. So our patients, when they come to clinic for PH clinic, every visit we do 6-minute walk distance on them, especially if we are changing their medications or up titrating their medications. So every 3 to 6 months, every 3 months for sure, and every 6 months, depending on the disease state or stage, we do 6-minute walk distance with each visit for PH to make sure that we are documenting improvement, worsening, or stability on. How many of you get 6-minute walk distance with every visit when you go to see a PH doctor? Not many, huh? I think it's so talk to your physician, speak to them, and see how often you should get a 6-minute walk distance, or should you or not. So it is recommended by European and American societies that every 3 months you should have a 6-minute walk distance, and usually our evaluations are every 3 to 6 months. So with each visit, you must be getting a 6-minute walk distance test. How many of you get an echocardiogram? What is the frequency of getting echocardiograms for your visits when you go to see a doctor?
Mine's usually once a year.
Once a year?
Twice a year.
Twice a year? Yeah, that's about right. So if in a stable condition, it's once a year. In patients who are still on therapy, still up titrating, 6 months or a year is still fair. But yearly echocardiograms are important to know how your heart is changing with therapy. So you should ask your doctor about at least having an echocardiogram at least once a year to see if your therapy is working or not. Now, of course, all of you have gone through this who are on treatment, right heart catheterization. Either you underwent this test either through the neck or through the groin to confirm what your lung pressures are. Remember, we talked about how echocardiogram or ultrasound of your heart can screen for pH, but the only way to diagnose pulmonary hypertension is right heart catheterization, which means no one should be on treatment in this day and age without having a right heart catheterization. Right heart catheterization differentiates between different types of pulmonary hypertension. It will tell you if your pH is coming from left side, right side, both. If it is both, which one is more? So you can treat accordingly. It also tells you what your fluid level is, and most importantly, it tells you what is your heart output and what is your lung resistance against that heart output. Now, all these things, when you put them together, they define the aggressive nature of treatment. We use all that on day-to-day basis. Before I started coming to to Bartlett, I saw a patient right before I left and did right heart cath on this young lady, and she had severe pulmonary hypertension, first time diagnosed today. She's 34, had some issues, and now she has PH. And she's being started on upfront 3 medications because how severe her condition is. So, but we had some screening from echocardiogram, and then we started this pathway, and today on right heart cath, we confirmed that she has severe PH, which is coming from the right side, of course, and maybe she has some immune condition causing all this. So we're starting all the workup as well. But most importantly, right heart cath will tell you exactly how severe the disease is and how heart and lung are responding to that disease. Now, what do you think is the frequency of right heart cath after you diagnose with PH? Someone who has chronic PH now on therapy, how often should you get right heart cath?
Twice a year?
So it's at least, depending the 2 things. So it's usually once a year, but it is once a year in patients where you're at the end of 1 year you have two questions. One, should you go up on therapy, or if patient is not improving? Let's see if you are shortness of breath. If you were started with a 6-minute walk distance of 300 meters, and after 1 year of treatment, you are still at 300 meters, something is not right. Either you need to escalate therapy, or need to change therapy to the point where you can improve the walk distance or improve the functional capacity. Well, by then, has the pressure changed? Has the heart lung resistance changed? Has the heart output dropped? What is going on that is not keeping up with the therapy? So usually, based on how severe the disease is, we tend to do, our recommendations are, both European and American Society recommends about every 1 to 2 years of right heart catheterization. So echocardiogram and right heart cath based on the disease state can be interchanged. But echocardiograms are once a year, so right heart caths based on where the disease progression is. But our patients, almost depending on if they are moderate to severe, they all get yearly right heart caths, so we know exactly we need to escalate therapy on them and be aggressive to improve their outcomes. Now this is your functional class. The functional class in, yes, sorry.
Is better getting the right heart cath through the groin or the wrist? Or doesn't make a difference?
Well, I mean, in both ways, you will get the same numbers, but 99% of my heart caths are from the neck, and they are the easiest in the way that you can get up in about 5 minutes, and usually patients leave within an hour, as compared to if you do from groin, you have to wait 2 or 3 hours after you're getting a heart cath. Wrist is about the same too. Usually we go from the elbow or slightly above the elbow, but neck is the most common. It's easiest, and even you can do with, if you're even on warfarin or Coumadin, you can do with even high INR without any effect. So, the more from patient comfort standpoint, neck and arm are the better ones. Groin is a bit more hectic because you have to stay, and also most of the time from neck you don't have to use any X-ray or fluoro. The groin you almost always have to use X-ray to know where you're going. With neck, the catheter just flows naturally with the blood flow.
Thank you.
So functional class. So functional class is basically a description of how you do on day-to-day basis. So higher the functional class is, higher the number is, worse the capacity of function is. So let's say functional class 4 patients are the most symptomatic patients. Those are the patients who are short of breath even at rest. They cannot eat or talk without being short of breath. Versus functional class 1 patients, they do not have any symptoms with ordinary activity. For example, if you're walking around the house, doing laundry, doing activities at home, it's not causing shortness of breath. Versus functional class 4 patients who are short of breath at rest. So with each visit, it is compulsory for your physician or healthcare provider to document your functional class. And this is achieved by asking questions about your daily activity. Usually it's done by nurses or physicians who have whatever their setup is. But if you started with a functional class 3 in the beginning, before treatment, our job is to bring you back to functional class 1 at the end of it. Or, as soon as possible, we need to improve your functional class to the best possible state. So after 6 months, a year, or 2 years of therapy, if you're still functional class 3, something is not right. Either we need to escalate therapy, or disease is getting worse, or there's something else which is not making your functional class better than before. So documentation of functional class, just like we discussed, your 6-minute walk test is also an assessment of your functional class. If the distance is improving, your functional class is improving. If distance is decreasing, your functional class is decreasing. So all these things are put together in a format to see the improvement or progression of your disease, and if there's any worsening, then escalate therapy based on symptoms. Why is it important for patients to know their functional class? Because you would know, of course you know if you're getting better or not, that is one. But if your physicians don't know exactly how much your how much better you are, they will not know when to go up on your treatment, how aggressive to be with your treatment. Besides function class, which is actually becoming the old school now there are better markers of assessment. If you go to see your PH physicians now, please ask them, what is your risk of dying from PH? Not how much you can do. The risk assessment in PH is a newer way of thinking how aggressive we should be in treating PH patients. The reason for that is risk assessment actually takes into account multiple factors, not just 6-minute walk test. It doesn't just take into account what your blood pressure is. There are about 14 or 15 different parameters put in a algorithm. It gives you a number and tells you if you are low risk, moderate risk, or high risk of dying from PH. And now the new wave of therapy is, our job as physician is to decrease your risk of dying from PH by lowering your risk score as much as we can. For example, you may be able to walk an extra 100 feet, but your risk may not change at all. You may be able to do more, but your heart function may not improve. So, and all those factors go into a formula to calculate what your risk score is. If you are high risk, with treatment you should become moderate or low risk as soon as possible, because we know if your risk score does not change, mortality or risk of dying from pulmonary hypertension stays high. So from moderate to low, and low to the lowest possible risk is what will define how long you will live with the disease. If it doesn't change, your risk of dying has not changed, no matter how many medications you're on. So ask your physician your risk assessment tool for pulmonary hypertension. Just to give you an idea, if you want to Google, look for REVEAL, REVEAL, REVEAL risk score. You will find two. There is one REVEAL 1, and then there's REVEAL 2.0 that just came out probably a year and a half ago. Both REVEAL 1 and 2 calculators will tell you exactly what is your risk of dying from pulmonary hypertension in 1, 5, and 10 years. So, and that takes into account your blood pressure, your BNP level, your echocardiogram findings, your right heart cath findings, your 6-minute walk test, your functional class. There are about, like I said, 14 or 15 different parameters that go into that account. And if you are improving that score, you're doing better. If you're not improving that score, something has to be done to improve that score as soon as possible so you live longer with PH. On top of that, of course, managing your PH, just like any other condition, you have to be, your lungs and heart, they are struggling, but lifestyle modifications go along with it. Your diet, your exercise. Who can tell me what 2 interventions so far have shown to reduce the risk of dying from pulmonary hypertension? 2 interventions. One is IV medications, Volitri or epoprostenol or Remodulin-like medicine, which are IV. Second is exercise. It sounds counterintuitive, right? How can you exercise with PH? But exercise is the second intervention which has shown to reduce the risk of death from PH the most. And that is because once you and exercise does not mean that you have to get on a treadmill and start running. Exercise means you walk extra, you walk more and more, you improve your functional capacity yourself as much as you can. The point is, once you get afflicted by pulmonary hypertension, the chance is that you will be sitting and not doing as much because you're short of breath, you're weak, and you're hooked to oxygen. But if somehow you can increase your activity a foot or 2 a day or a week, then you will be improving your capacity as much as you can in a year. and that will reduce the risk of dying the most, along with other medication that you're on. Oxygen therapy is also shown to improve that, but exercise and IV medications are two treatment strategies which have a big impact on mortality. As we know, and I'm sure you guys are on either one, two, or combination of this, there are three main therapies for different pathways of medications which we use, and one of them is oral medication, and now FDA has almost 14 different medications which are approved for PH. We came a long way from only one medication that used to be in ice packs. Volitri, someone have seen that before. People had to carry ice packs with them to keep the medicine active. We have come from there now to the pill form of medications and IV medications, which can be given from under the skin or in IV form and can last longer and have longer half-life. Similarly, we have pill forms which are as good as IV forms now, and there's some fantastic stuff coming out in future about pH, which can be not only life-changing but also will be very compatible with normal quality of life, where we have come from ice packs to today. So in future we are expecting and hoping there's a lot of things on the horizon for therapies for this advanced condition. And of course, between oral, inhaled, and infused, these are different type of medications, and we used to have only one class of oral medication. Now all the different pathways have been come to oral medication. So it is quite exciting to see how this has progressed in past. And I'm sure you're aware of these resources. One of the most common resources that we have is Pulmonary Hypertension Association, PHA, that I'm sure you guys are all a member of. There's some phenomenal stuff out there for patients, caregivers, and physicians, and their numbers, of course. And then this PH Aware Global Peer Network is one of them. I've not seen their website, but I heard it's pretty fantastic. And so is by United Therapeutics Corporation has this United PH support. But all of them provide the same goal. They have the same goal to make sure that one, patients are connected, two, they're connected with the latest therapy out there to improve their outcomes. And this is what I think, if there's one thing that I have to stress today, is to assure that patient empowerment in this very rare condition is the key. Knowledge gives empowerment. And if you have knowledge of your condition, you can truly control your disease. And knowledge comes from this, awareness. Talk to each other. You know what is going on. And keeping up to date with nowadays with smartphones, with Google, it's a lot easier. Even though there's a lot of noise in there too, but then still you get a lot of information, you connect with the right people, and you get to know what is out there. The second part of that is, please do not hesitate or don't be shy when you speak to your physicians about it. It is your right to ask these questions. Where is my disease? Where do you see me in 5 years? Where do you see me in 10 years? What should we do to make it better? What should we do to make it that I make it to 10 years? Does my family have this condition? How often should I monitor my condition? How often should I have echocardiograms? How often should I have right heart cath? What was my last 6-minute walk test? How many feet did I walk? If I didn't walk more than certain feet, what does that mean? Am I getting better, worse, or which way is this going? So your knowledge will empower you to control your own condition. And this is one disease that we have seen. The big movement of treatment actually came from a family who had this condition. It started the whole company that actually provided the medication for these patients. So please, like I said, don't be shy or don't hesitate asking your providers about your condition and what can be done to make it better with each visit. It is your right to ask that question. Thank you for your kind attention, and please feel free to ask questions, and love to hear your comments and any question that you have.
Anybody got questions?
I had a question, yeah. You said that when you explained that loop that the blood goes through, if a person had a blood clot in their leg, that could actually cause pulmonary hypertension?
So the question is, if can blood clot cause pulmonary hypertension? Answer is not really, unless it breaks off and it goes to lung circulation and causes blockage of pulmonary arteries inside the lung circulation. That is when it causes pulmonary hypertension. And that's a great question, because a lot of patients who have DVT or blood clot in their legs, they are at a higher risk for developing PH, especially if those clots broke off and went to lung circulation. That by itself is a distinct group of patients who actually benefit from surgery to take the clots out, and the disease is cured. So that is one curative form of pulmonary hypertension.
Anybody else?
I gotta say that's one of the best presentations I've heard on pulmonary hypertension.
We appreciate you driving over. Thank you.